This next one, scientists did not bring dire wolves back. I saw this and I went right by it because it was just, I don't know if I became numb to sci-fi. I had a conversation with my kids a couple times about, yo, when they be saying stuff, you gotta realize your science fiction mind kicks in. Meaning you start thinking sci-fi. With AI, you start thinking sci-fi. You think robots have conscience. And that's all these movies is based on when they go deal with robots and things of that nature. It's all about consciousness, free thought, souls, and stuff like that. That's what makes it science fiction. And so you gotta remember these things have to be programmed in order to do anything. And without programming, they can't. It's not functional that way. Science fiction, they can do these things. So even with this, the whole direwolf thing. So when I saw this title, it did not. I was just like, here comes sci-fi. So let's check out and see what this what this guy's going to be talking about as far as why they didn't when they're saying they did.
Have brought dire wolves back from extinction. It's basically Game of Thrones. That is amazing. How did you do it?
We've taken a gray wolf genome, a gray wolf cell, which is already genetically 99.5% identical to dire wolves, and we've edited those cells at multiple places in its DNA sequence to contain the dire wolf version of the DNA. That animal looks like a dire wolf, it will behave like a dire wolf, and it is a dire wolf.
Ta-da! That is not a dire wolf. What? Of course it is. We said so. If you took a few genes from direwolf bones and put them into a grey wolf genome, then at best you've got a hybrid that's mostly grey wolf. Oh, well, we didn't insert any actual direwolf DNA into the grey wolves. What? Yeah, we looked at direwolf DNA, and then we used that as kind of a blueprint for how to edit the grey wolf DNA. Okay, sure, but you altered the grey wolf genes to match those of a direwolf, right? Yeah, mostly. Sometimes not. I mean, the gene that we think made direwolves white...
You know, just from that little explanation, it almost sounds similar to the 99% ape thing that they did. And while we all think we're related in their DNA is 99%, and it's not. That's not how the study was done. But throughout history, that's how it's just been told and believed to be. And that's kind of looks like what they're doing with the direwolf thing. Of course, not in the same thing, but just how they're speaking about it. When you get the real breakdown, as he's breaking it down, it's like, oh, so it's not. You know, like it's one of those things where you're like, oh, it's not. But you're saying it is, but it's not really, you know, how we imagine it to be. But scientifically, they're probably like, yo, that's exactly what that is. And it's like, no, technically it's not. You know, but we're talking, you know, what we would view, what our science fiction minds are viewing it as science is what is the difference there. We're looking for Game of Thrones direwolf. They're not saying that. They're not saying that's what that is. We're looking for that big old dang near 5 foot from on both legs tall wolf, 4 foot tall at least wolf. And that's not what we're getting here.
Would make a grey wolf deaf, so we used non-direwolf DNA to make them white. But of the 20 changes we made to 14 genes, 15 were an exact direwolf match. Animals in the genus Canis have around
direwolf match, but it's not direwolf.
Genes, and you changed 14 of them? Yeah, but they're super closely related to direwolves. Genetic evidence suggests that the last common ancestor of direwolves and grey wolves lived around 5.7 million years ago. That would make them almost as distantly related as humans are from chimpanzees.
There we go.
I mean, technically direwolves aren't even wolves. They're in a different genus and they just look similar because they faced similar evolutionary pressures. Also, I'm seeing lots of news articles about this, but where's the actual scientific paper describing your methodology? We named this one Khaleesi, like in Game of Thrones. Yeah, no, I get the theme. Look, if you claim to have achieved de-extinction, people are going to think you've actually cloned something from ancient DNA, or at least copied a whole genome.
There we go
not
with the
just
sci-fi.
altered one species to kind of look like another. Your muscle wolves are still a cool example of genetic engineering. They're just not dire wolves. Well, this cover of Time magazine says otherwise. Yeah, that's not how science works. Also, how can you possibly know that these puppies will
behave like a dire wolf?
Dire wolves are extinct. Our theories for how they behaved are based on limited fossil evidence and comparisons to living animals like grey wolves. Unless this whole thing is a soft launch for a secret time machine business, or you have what is currently a science fiction level understanding of behavioral genetics, you have no way of knowing that the handful of genes you altered will make these puppies act less like grey wolves and more like dire wolves. God, those are cute puppies, though. While we're on the subject, I know you haven't actually released your reconstructed ancient direwolf genome yet, but saying that grey wolves are
genetically 99.5% identical to dire wolves
is almost certainly wildly misleading. Basically, the same claim gets made about humans and chimps all the time. And Vantage actually has a great video explaining the problems with this type of comparison. You're just a science hater. If what we do is so easy, why don't you try it then? Okay, sure.
A few moments later.
Hey guys, look at this human I made. Jesus Christ, what is that? Well, I took a chimpanzee, changed a few genes so that it kind of looks human, and that makes it a 100% real Homo sapien.
There we
Ta-da! Greetings, children. You know, I am actually excited for science to start bringing extinct megafauna back to life, but that's not what this is. Colossal Bioscience is a for-profit company worth over $10 billion, and for this achievement, they've decided to pursue viral hype over scientific substance, which is a pity because they do seem to actually have some pretty cool genetic engineering technology. I'll make a follow-up video in a few years if they actually follow through
I
with their
have to
plan
look
make
at that
a elephant and
ape
call
one.
it a woolly mammoth.
Well,
I've
I'm
been
gonna do a
approaching
reaction
30,000
on that
subscribers for a
ape
while
and human
now,
one
and it
because
is driving me
I
crazy.
knew.
So if you liked this video and you want to help the channel grow, please consider subscribing.
Yes, go to
Thank
this
you,
channel,
Robin
you guys.
Now and Timk94.
Go to this channel. That's very. It's exactly scientific terminology and everything, but common sense rules over everything, right? And it's funny that they mentioned the ape thing in there. I was like, yeah, that's it. That's what they, and people literally believe they're 90. Everything is 100% us, and it's not. No, that's not how that's done. In the romanticism in scientific speech, you have to decipher it, especially when she said it's going to act like a. That woman wasn't alive to even know what direwolves act like, and he's right. Only how she'll even imagine. Remember, imagine romanticizing what it would behave like would be a little bit. You can actually imagine what it could do, but it doesn't mean that's what that really is. It's these are tricky subjects to talk about people, because people believe stuff, and they really go to town with it. They don't really try to make sense out of what's being said. It's just like I think they found Aboriginal, Australian Aboriginal bones in South America. If I'm not mistaken. They even found African down there, but the Aboriginals, they were like, how did they get here? It must have been, how they throw the thousands and hundreds of thousands of years up and stuff. And just ask, how do they get here? But yet you throw the amount of years in there, right? And then they're like, oh, the earth platelets had to be connecting together. It's almost as if these people think that people who lived 2,000, 7,000 years ago couldn't have seen a tree log floating in the water and say to themselves, hey, that thing is floating. How about we gut it. That way we could put some of us in there, because if it's a full tree and it's floating, if we hollowed it out, cut it out, we could probably fit a few of us in there and use that to go across the water by trial and error. And you're throwing in thousands of years now, because you remember they said thousands of years ago. You're putting in 1,000 years. So you're telling me you can't evolve when I can remember a cell phone not being existing? You know what I mean? I'm on the rotary. I've seen cordless phones from cord phones. I've seen in the movies where they're holding the thing and they got it to their ear. They're talking to some fixator and they're asking for an operator to patch them through. This stuff is within 100 years, 200 years. I'm seeing these evolvements, evolutions in human development. So 1,000 years, they could. Please don't let these people make you believe these people didn't have boats. Everything had to be frozen for people to walk across somewhere. Steve, please don't let these people make you believe that humans didn't migrate or move. Some people only think black people were in Africa. There's people today still saying and quoting, the only reason why we're in America is because they actually shipped over 20 million people on a boat to America. That is an absolute lie. And you can read history, a real history book, and read real historical documents that is documented that black people were here. How do you think so? It's just the audacity to think, and some black folks regurgitate that stupid stuff. The only reason how we got here is because they took us from out. No, fool, you were everywhere. Just like they are everywhere. Humans are everywhere. They don't get taken and moved somewhere new where they never been. That's not. We still travel to this day. They traveled then. It just so happens that Spaniards and them know where black people are predominantly, where they are originated from. So there's no need to document that you were here prior, that there was black people here prior, because they would automatically call you African, just as well as they call Indians, because they thought they were from India. So, you know, the notion is, you have to understand, people were a lot more ignorant back then. So we can't keep regurgitating ignorance, meaning unlearned. We can't recycle it. We have to put it in perspective. Let me stop rambling on and on and on. I'll get you on the flip side. Maybe I'll bring up a video that actually looks into this stuff. And I'm going to get to the ape thing too. I want to see what that's about.